मनी दी गल में विरा वो चिता मनी देख के हंसे बल में विरा वो चिता ऊटा ऊटा यो को पुत्र मेरे दूंगे मैं बहना ऊटा यो को पुत्र मेरे दूंगे मैं बहना ऊटा यो को पुत्र मेरे दूंगे मैं बहना पैर की मैं लाल सूत है जन की गुब्बारे में अब कोई ऊपर पानी लेने जाओ नगवारे में पैर की मैं लाल सूत है जन की गुब्बारे में अब कोई ऊपर पानी लेने जाओ नगवारे में छुट्टी भी दुनिया कलाकारी ले ला पिता उठा उठा यो को पुत्र मेरे दूंगे मैं बहना उठा यो को पुत्र मेरे दूंगे मैं बहना उठा यो को पुत्र मेरे दूंगे मैं बहना मेरी जितानी बल मारे ली सुमोजा मेरा इतना भारी गाल गिरा मरे सुमोजा हाय मेरी जितानी बल मार जी ली सुमोजा मेरा इतना बारा गाल गिरा मरे सुमोजा मेरी मत की निया चाल पूरा भर देगी रे पिता उठा उठा यो को पुत्र मेरे दूंगे मैं बहना उठा यो को पुत्र मेरे दूंगे मैं बहना उठा यो को पुत्र मेरे दूंगे मैं बहना
Mental health is not a destination, but a process. It's about how you drive, not where you're going. Noam Spencer. This is Get Real with Shameeza. I'm your hostess, Shameeza Ali. Salam, namaste, and good evening to everyone joining us on Facebook, YouTube, Island Zone Radio, and on NTN Channel 69 in Georgetown, Guyana. Please take a moment to share this live with your family and friends. It may save someone's life. The CDC explained that our mental health affects most aspects of our life, including our emotional, psychological, and social well-being. You or someone close might have been diagnosed with a mental health issue, which is more common than people think. According to the CDC, more than 50% will be diagnosed with a mental illness or disorder at some point in their lifetime. Mental health difficulties take on a variety of forms that can look like anxiety, depression, bipolar disorder, or many other conditions. Some can even be debilitating. As we discuss this important topic tonight, I encourage you to share this with your friends, call someone that may be at benefit from tonight's show. While you do that, we'll get into our giveaway for tonight. And our giveaway is compliments of Bidesi Caribbean Food Specialist. It will be a Thanksgiving basket and includes a beautiful teddy bear, as you guys can see. Here is your chance to win that exciting box filled with goodies. Last week on Get Real with Shameeza, we spoke to Article Don, and he featured two animals on the show. What were their names? Again, the question is, last week's show, we featured Article Don, and he had two animals with him. What were their names? And while you do that, please share. We will bring you a message from our sponsors.
Enos Driving School offers training for CDL licenses, including tractor-trailers, trucks, and school buses. Just think, with a CDL license, you can have access to thousands of driving jobs at large companies such as FedEx, UPS, MTA, or New York Sanitation. Enos Driving School also offers defensive driving courses and training classes for cars and motorcycles, all taught by their college-trained instructors who can even schedule your road test appointments. Inquire about other driving and training packages as well. You might even be qualified for their free CDL training, as they are a certified institution with the New York State Workforce One program. Call Enos Driving School today. They've been serving our community for over 10 years.
Please welcome our panelists for tonight's show, Mr. Narine Sookram, Annalisa Bahadur, and Natasha Sundar. It's a pleasure having each and every one of you here this evening. Thank you so much for being here. Mr. Sookram, since you have never been on the show, can you please introduce yourself to us? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure, sure. So for those of you who don't know me, I live here in Canada, by the way. In Kitchener, that is, an hour from Toronto. I have a beautiful wife and two beautiful girls, a 12-year-old and a 3-year-old. I do a variety of different pieces, including talk show and so forth. But mental health is also something I kind of get more seriously into, particularly because of the pandemic. I do not want to spend too much time talking about myself because we have lots of important things to talk about, Shameeza.
We sure do. Thank you so much. And Annalisa, a reintroduction.
Hi, I'm Annalisa Bahadur. I'm a heartbreak coach. I help people to survive their heartbreaks, not only breakups, but anything that creates fear and take away your confidence while you're in a relationship or outside of a relationship.
Wow. And Natasha Sundar, you need no introduction, but just in case, please tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, I'm Natasha Sundar, and I consider myself an activist for mental health awareness. I was in the military for 10 years, and my ex-husband was diagnosed with bipolar disorder type 2, and I'm just a advocate for mental health awareness. I think it's important, and I'm always here to support.
Perfect. And guys, let's get right into it, right? Mental health, again, the survey shows that, at some point, each one of us will be diagnosed with mental health at some point, diagnosed or maybe not diagnosed, right? But we will deal with mental health issues at some point in our life. Annalisa, do you think that's a true statement?
I'm actually hoping that it's not true, as it is right now. Statistics show that we've got 1 in 5 persons with a mental health issue in the U.S. at least. The numbers keep going up as the years roll on. But I think one of the beautiful things is that people are becoming more and more aware of mental health issues, and we're talking about it, and there's a lot more support, many programs in place to assist people. But yeah, it's definitely something that needs a lot of attention. And I'm really glad that I'm in a century where it's happening, because I remember growing up, we didn't talk about mental health issues. We did not talk about depression. Suicide was a hush-hush thing. Domestic violence was a hush-hush thing, and that causes a lot of mental health issues. So, yeah.
No, I beg to differ, but I feel that mental health, suicide, bullying, and a lot of the issues that we face in the world today all stems from mental health. And correct me if I'm wrong, I just think that's really the root of it all. Like that's how it starts. Mr. Sookram, what would you say about that? Would you agree?
Well, I mean, mental health has a big role to play for sure, without any question. I would necessarily say that it has everything to do with it, but definitely, without any question, according to studies, by the way, it has a big part to do with everything you've just listed there. And I think that's one of the reasons why we're having this conversation in the first place. So, to me, this is a good beginning.
A good beginning. Now, when it comes to mental health, do you think we're doing enough? Do you think there is still more to be done? And where do you think where else should we be having these discussions? Who else should be having these discussions?
You asking me?
And anyone,
Anybody,
yes,
anybody.
yeah, anyone can
So
comment.
the ladies can go first. Ladies first.
Natasha, you want to go?
Okay. Yeah. So I think that we should be doing more with mental health awareness. It's not enough is not being done. There's still a lot of people that for us this is normal. We are happy talking about it, having these conversations, but out there in the population there's a lot of people that suffer from it and do not want to talk about it. And I think we have a lot of artists, we have a lot of trenders, people who we follow. And I think that those are the people that should promote mental health awareness, because when they do, then it's going to become normal for everyone else. It's going to be like part of our life, like a norm. It's not going to be something we push to the side or we ignore. So I think definitely we should continue to pay attention to mental health awareness constantly, because it's our behavior and how we carry about our lives and how we deal with our lives.
Natasha, you made a good point there that you as an artist, because we know today on social media, you guys play a major role in influencing your fans, your viewers, the people who follow you. You kind of say something and they listen. If you tell them to go buy a specific product or to do a specific thing, they will more do it if you're saying it rather than somebody like me who has really, not a lot of influence, right? So Natasha Sundar says something compared to Shameeza, people will more listen to you. And you're right. I feel like if you guys speak up more and have more discussions, like they bring more awareness, we could possibly get this conversation started. For example, right now, right, we're here and we have a few people watching us. But I can tell you, if this conversation was more about a husband and wife having some major issues and, there was so much drama in it, we'll probably have hundreds of people watching it. And I feel this is so wrong, because this is something that will benefit someone out there or many people out there. Just listening and being a part of this discussion will help so much people. And our people choose not to partake in things like this, but like I said, other things that adds no value to their life. And it's very sad to sit by and watch that. How do you guys feel that we can change these things?
I feel like this is something that needs to be talked about first at home, because we have children in home. This is like Narine was saying, it's not just the mental health. It's not just the health of the mind and the brain. Some of it's behavior. We learn certain things at home. Some of it is in our DNA. So let's deal with two of it that starts at home. The food we eat, that affects how we think. It affects how we behave. The rest that we get affects the way we think and how we behave again. But what we're saying to our children at home, what we're letting them see, I know in the culture in Guyana especially, parents believe that it's safer to hide the child from what the struggles that they're going through. And then when kids grow up, they're faced with issues like bullying, for example, at school, and they don't know how to handle it. So I feel like we should probably be a little more open. Of course, we want to keep out the innocence of our children protected as possible. But at the same time, we need to start preparing them and letting them know that, there are going to be things that happens outside of us that we have no control of. And how do we handle that internally? Because as we go through life, things will affect us, but do we allow it to affect our inner world? And I think that's a conversation we can start now with our young kids, so that when they get to the ages that we're at right now, they're not struggling to clean up all of that childhood mess and the trauma that they would have collected, like we've collected, and we're now trying to sort through things. So I think that's one place that we could definitely start, and hopefully have more classes in schools. Like have designated, like we have a science class, a math class, and most of it, we all know this, most of it, our kids grow out of school, they don't use it. I don't use trigonometry. Does anyone of you use trigonometry? We don't, right? So have a class, have practical classes in there that's going to prepare individuals for real life issues.
Yeah. I agree. And, I see in the comments, someone says that the older generation, Sonia Chandani says, the older generation don't want to accept that mental health issues exist. And I can tell you many families where, they do not, they think it's all in our heads, and they went through their lives and didn't you did deal with mental health issues. You did. You just never accepted it, or you never figured out what it was. But they did. Right. When parents claimed that, these kids were stressing them out, they were having issues and they were not talking about it. They thought it was normal. They normalized us being bad kids. They normalized us being mischievous kids that just wouldn't listen. They didn't figure out why is it we didn't listen, or why is it things didn't go normal. They just thought we were bad, and have discussions with family members, but never figure out what they were giving us, that stubbornness or whatever it was coming from. And you're right, Annalisa. We need what my fight right now, this whole entire thing that I'm doing, Get Real with Shameeza, Safari for Hope, everything that I'm doing right now, I know I wouldn't get any changes. I'm bettering myself every day, but I'm hoping that we can change now, so that our future generation, I have a grandchild, I don't want her mom to be the way I was to my kids, right? I want my kids to be better to their kids. And I want those grandkids to grow up in a world where they're free to speak their minds, tell us how they feel. I'm a 45-year-old woman who still, when I'm around my elders, cannot clearly express how I feel, because you're still afraid that they're your elders and they're going to judge you in a certain way, or you have to have a level of respect for them. And there is respect, and there is use speaking your mind and telling how you feel, and it's two different things. And we're still not allowed to be who we are among our
Can I
community.
quickly touch on that?
Yeah, please.
That respect thing. I had a conversation with someone recently, and we were talking about, the parents. The discussion was around, should parents have a little bit more respect than, I don't know, the guy who sells me coffee? I don't think so. I don't think that one person should be respected more than the other. I think if we can, just be ourselves, good, compassionate, kind, we can respect people on the same level and still ask for what we want and set boundaries, even with our parents. Because one of the things that it's a major, major problem in Guyana no one really talks about is sexual abuse with children, right? And it's one of the reasons that happens so much is because we have this shut up policy. I'm the adult here, I'm going to tell you what to do and you should do it. And then I'm going to tell you, be quiet about it. Don't go tell your parents. Right. And so kids are growing up first with parents who are saying, shut up. I'm telling you what to do. You do it. And then the child grows up believing that that's what happens. Someone in an authority figure will have the right to tell them what to do and take away their own rights. So people are growing up without being able to set boundaries. I know people in their 40s and 50s still afraid to say to their parents, no, I'm sorry. this is an inconvenience, or you don't get to talk to me this way, or it's hurtful, I don't appreciate it. And it's unfortunate. But yeah, the conversation has got to change at home.
I agree. We need to do more in our schools as well. And like to your point, there are things that are being taught in school right now that will never need it. There needs to be a reassessment of what is needed by our kids. It's been years of teaching the same thing. There is a curriculum and it's obviously not working. We don't need it. The kids don't need it. They grew up in a world of computers and all these different things. Start teaching them things that can be relevant in their life and that will make sense. Mr. Sookram, what do you think?
Well, obviously, excuse me, excuse me. I think it is important, as I mentioned earlier, for us to have these conversation on an ongoing basis. I think one of the biggest problem is sometimes, based on people's values and so forth, they are afraid that they're going to be rejected. Right? I want people to know that if for some reason, right, they are feeling that stressed out in life and so on, if you have that willpower and that motivation to share it, it is not a weakness, right? And I think people, we need to educate ourselves continuously, right? We cannot be too bothered with the noises around us in terms of how people view us, and so forth, because the bottom line is, if we don't have a conversation about it, nothing will actually happen. This is the real, this is a first step, for example, for us to start to make those changes. The idea of the right programs and courses are not being taught in school and so forth, I agree with that. I think one of the things we need to do is that we need to be part of the change. So whether that be us, whether it be more women or people of color and whatnot, running for these high position where we can actually be the change that we want to see. So I think we need to continuously add to what we are already doing. And I get it that this is not a sexy topic. Shameeza, you brought up an excellent point. If we were talking about something else, the viewership would have been a lot different. And I think also that's another problem. But it could also be that the topic that we're talking about is triggering people based on experiences they have had as well too, right? So
Yeah,
that's what I'm thinking
agreed.
here.
Natasha?
Yeah, I agree with you that this should be, taught in schools, and it should be, like I said, common. It should be part of our lifestyle. And I have two kids, and know that Annalisa mentioned, the children, and it starts at home. And I 100% agree. I consider myself a West Indian mom, and if you know what I mean by West Indian mom, you can be a little harsh sometimes. And I have to constantly remind myself, like, this is molding my kids into the behavior that they are going to show as adults. So even though, sometimes you get carried away with the way that you are raised, you have to be conscious about the way that you treat your kids, and how you treat them. And yes, you do not want to coddle them too much to where they go out into the world and then they cannot face the stresses of the world. And I've worked with people where they had a very soft way, they grew up very soft, and then they have to face the workforce and they have to face all the stress, and they can't handle it because they haven't been taught how to handle it at home with their parents. So I agree with Annalisa that it's really important to take care of these issues and start with your kids first and your home first, because you are raising people that's going to go out in society, and how are they going to treat other people,
Yeah. And thus, we were talking about bullying and other things. Now, accountability. I want to talk about parents, right? Because we're talking about the kids and we're talking about how it starts from home. But accountability as parents or as an adult or as a spouse or as a friend, right? It's very important that we are held accountable for our actions. And I think part of this discussion has to do with accountability. We're not being held accountable for our actions. We're not holding ourselves accountable because no one is supposed to hold us accountable. We're supposed to hold ourselves accountable. We should always examine our actions and really reflect on what kind of trouble is it causing? Like, who am I to society, to my family, to my friends? What am I doing, right? And hold yourself accountable. We're not doing enough of that. And we need to do a show, and I'm doing a show that will probably happen very soon, where as parents we need to hold ourselves accountable, and we need as human beings to be accountable for our actions. And so the next topic, important topic that we will have, is accountability. Guys, look out for that one, because that one will be another major one. It will teach us. I do want to go to a question that I feel is very important for tonight's topic. Geeta Narine is asking, please state some of the things to look out for so people can be more aware. So Annalisa, do you want to take that?
I often get worried when with the person who will reach out to everyone to check up on them. That's the person that I want to focus on. The one who is always showing up, being there, asking everyone how they're doing, sending the funny jokes. The one who seemed to be the strongest in your group, that's the one you check up on more often than not, because that's the one who holds everything in and holds everyone together. I feel like a lot of times people say things on social media on their status and nobody pays attention to those things. They ignore it. Reach out. Sometimes people just need to know that you're paying attention and you're there, right? I think we need to get into the habit of listening. I know what the question is, what signs do you look for? There really isn't much of a sign. Depression, it looks like, the person doesn't want to do anything. They're in bed all the time. Just loss of interest, loss of passion. That's what you pick up with someone who is probably suffering from depression or massive sadness, and then you look at what might have happened in their life within the last 3 months or so. But what I really think helps, the solution to before we could get to those problems and looking for signs, because again, there's so many cases where you have like suicide and people are like, oh, I had no idea, right? So listen. Just listen, paying attention to people. When someone comes to you and say, I feel really crappy today, you don't have to jump in with a solution. You could just shut up and just listen to them and encourage them to keep talking, because as Narine would know, talking alone releases stress and helps people to, feel stronger and process what their feelings, process what they're thinking, and it gets them out of that funk. But for signs, it can get tricky. Sleeping might be a thing, but again, it depends on what's going on with the person at the time and if there has been any changes in their life.
Now, let's do a little role play, right? Because I'm a mom. Most of us here are parents, right? My 27-year-old daughter comes to me and she says, Mom, I am not recently I haven't been feeling well. I'm not sure what it is, but sometimes I have these mood swings. Sometimes I snap at my husband for no reason. I'm not sure what's going on. I really think I need a vacation. What should be my reaction to her?
Do you want to talk some more about this? I'm providing you a safe space. Whatever you say stays between us. Would you like to share some more? What are you feeling? What are these thoughts going through your head? Help me to understand. Right? Where is this feeling coming from? Is it coming from your head? Is it coming from your throat? Is it coming from your stomach? Where is that feeling? You could tell, is it a tension? Is it something stressing you out? Is it something that makes you feel like you can't speak up? Is that something external happening that makes you feel like you can't speak? Because when you feel that lump in your throat and you want to cry and you can't, that's because there's something holding you back from saying something that's affecting you. Is it coming from your gut? That's anxiety. And most of the times it's our instinct telling us that whatever we want to do or not to do, that's our guide. So having someone like really sit, become, zero in on where this feeling is coming from physically can help. But getting them to talk, because again, unless you're trained for this, right, they don't know what they're dealing with. So start with
Exactly.
breathing exercises to relax the body, right? Like
Exactly.
3 to 4 deep breaths, let them relax, but encourage them to talk first. And I think we should never go in with negatives like, no, you don't need a vacation. What's going to happen with your family? What's going to happen with your children? What's going to happen with your job? It just adds more pressure, unnecessary pressure. Get them to talk about it. And like I said, talk therapy usually helps you to process your thoughts and your emotions better. And then, you might find the person says, you know what? Thank you, Mom. This was so helpful. Maybe I should speak with a therapist. Maybe we could talk again later.
Yeah.
Try that first.
In that scenario, what do you think as a parent most of us will say to our child? What do you think will be the typical answer that as a parent I will say to my child? We've been conditioned to say.
You mean according to our culture and society? Pretty much the things that I said don't say.
Exactly. The things exactly you said don't say. And it was there was a reason behind why I gave you that the role play thing, because this is normal. We have been so conditioned, and that would be a normal conversation with myself too, until recently, where I'm really finding myself and I'm realizing that these things are wrong. Like, we should never be like, we should always step back, listen a little bit, really figure out what's going on, and then we proceed, right? But it's not who we are. We haven't been like that. And we have to start taking accountability. We have to start saying, you know what, maybe I am the reason why this person is going through this, or maybe I need to re-examine what I am doing as a parent, right, to be a better parent to my kids, right? And so accountability is key, and we need to have more discussions on that. Now we're gonna go through some of the things that I think definitely impacts mental health. How does we kind of touched on this, but we'll go a little bit deeper into it. How does culture or society affect our mental health? I see Mr. Sookram wants to take this one, right?
Um,
Right.
I mean, without any question, I'm sure these two ladies wouldn't think any differently. It affects this whole mental health piece in so many different ways. First of all, um, people who are born in North America, for example, they view the world differently. So, for example, I will say things like my daughter that, when I was a child, I didn't had all of these gadgets and, and all of these pieces, right? And her response will be, oh, well, too bad, this is a different time. And she's right. The culture has changed. The culture is different. Even the simple things that we talk about every day, um, dating, for example, right? Mental health obviously affects all of us globally. For example, and I'm going to be very specific here for a reason. Guyana, for example, dating and things of that kind, it's still not normal. If there's a boy and a girl talking on the street there, automatically the neighbors in the neighborhood will say there's something going on, there's something is wrong. Oh my goodness, like, how can they be doing that, right? Think about it. It's simple, but it's happening as we speak today. Here in places like North America, people will date if it doesn't work out, and we have somebody who knows so much about this dating and relationship here. People will date. They will date for a year. If it does not work out, they move on. And I can go on and on and on. Mental health in itself, I have tried to have conversation with people, and people are saying, "What is wrong with you? There's nothing is wrong with you," right? And think about that, right? And so forth. And there's a reason why I've kind of gotten into mental health to a point where I'm a therapist, because I realize that at the end of it all, we have to be part of the change. And I can keep going on and on. But culture, the way we do things, the way we were brought up, right, and the way we're doing things now is very different. I end up, and this is true story, guys. I end up blocking a few West Indian people because they do not believe in mental health treatment. They don't believe in that. They are so stuck in that box. So culture, some people are stuck in that box and have no desire to change. So that is my response to that question. I will let these two beautiful ladies add to it as well.
Natasha.
Natasha.
So, and I know I agree. The culture and society plays a huge part in mental health and the way we choose to do things, because we're so afraid sometimes of people talking about us. And in our culture, the West Indian culture, I've been, in the American culture because I've been in the military outside of the West Indian culture for a very long time. And it's not too different. Actually, people are still afraid to talk about mental health and how they feel and express themselves. And then in our West Indian culture, a lot of people, you don't want no one wants to talk about it because they are afraid of other people talking about them or looking at it as a weakness instead of trying to get yourself better, And so culture plays a huge part in it. And I think what Shameeza, what you're trying to do and what we're all trying to do in this panel is change our culture to make it normal and to make it okay to talk about these things and seek the help that we need. And I think this is why you keep pushing on mental health awareness because of our culture and our society and how it treats us. So yeah, it's huge. It plays a huge part in our culture and society in mental health.
Annalisa?
I think we've lost track of what our culture really is. It is not, I mean, let's go all the way back to India, Ayurvedic, all those lessons that we learned, root of the Bhagavad Gita, because most of Guyana is Hindus, and then we've got the Muslims and the Christians. But let's go all the way to what the root of culture is. It's togetherness. Communities came together to help each other, right? There was nothing like judgment, nothing like putting each other down, nothing like pulling each other down. We were supporting each other with our growth. We're no longer doing that. We're pulling each other down. We're pulling neighbors down. And we've moved over into telling people or ridiculing people about how they feel. So we've moved completely away from what our culture is really supposed to be, supportive, right? I find that, well, I grew up in Guyana. I spent my first 26 years in Guyana. And I often wonder, how is it that I think differently than most of my Guyanese friends and, family members? I started asking the question why at a very, very early age. Like, I used to annoy my father and my mother with why, because my parents were, brilliant, great parents, but they had a way of saying at times, because I said so. Do it because I said so, right? And mind you, I did that with my girls when they were young years ago, because it's a part of our culture. I'm the adult, I said so. And I would ask why. It didn't make sense. So as I grew up, I started to question those very things, like, why would I hit my child? Yes, the child came through me, but I'm a vessel. That's a human being. That's an individual. I do not own this person. It's my responsibility. And we were talking about accountability. I think the moment we start to ask questions like why, we start taking accountability for ourselves, because we don't expect the people around us to make us comfortable. Listening is how we take accountability. And again, it goes back to the culture. Our culture says, do not question people in authority. But when you start to ask why questions, you become your own individual. So you can take accountability. You can be the change. And when you become your change, then you start to appreciate that these little people that we were entrusted to raise are our responsibility. They're not our property. And I feel like that there can change the culture from what it is to what it can be. And one of my biggest, I'm going to call it an issue with our culture is the the way it divides a man's emotions from a woman's emotions. It's like women are allowed to have emotions. If we, throw a tantrum, we cry in public, we talk about, oh my gosh, I'm so depressed, or, boyfriend broke up with me and I'm so torn up. We can say that. Has any one of us heard a guy say that? Or we know what he's going to get if he comes in with, oh my gosh, my girlfriend broke up with me. I can't sleep. I can't stop crying. He's got labels and name calling, and so I think it's a little unfair, and that's something that I think we really need to start talking about and changing, allowing men to be alpha men and beta men if they want. And just a quick almost side note, it's like women are allowed to be alpha and beta, right? We could go out, we could work, we could demand what we want at the workplace and at home. We could be our feminine selves, the beta. We expect the man to hold the door open, pull the chairs out. But the man has got to be in his masculine energy, that alpha mode at all times. He's not allowed the space to share his emotions. And all of that affects the change of this cultural thinking.
But to Mr. Ramroop's, one of our viewers' point, he says parents need to spend more time with their children and teach them responsibilities and participate in doing things together instead of bribing them. Today, parents rather buy cooked food instead of cooking together. I expose my children instead of insulating them. People know if something is wrong with their car. Surely there are signs when our children are experiencing problems. Mental issues are real, and not only Guyanese suffer, but everywhere it is an issue. And I agree, but our discussion here tonight has to do with what it is, and the next step to it is what can we do? We need to find ways, because we kind of know, right, what it is. We know the issue exists, right? What can we do now? What is our role as part of society, members of society, to make changes today that our future generations can be better, right? Are we ever gonna eliminate mental health issues? Probably not. But we need to see that percentage become smaller and smaller, and there are things that we can do today to make that happen. So we need to figure out what we need to do. We need the solutions now as to how we can make things better. Annalisa?
Well, we've got a really high divorce rate, right? Like right now it's maybe 65%. So we've got that dynamic that's affecting children. But there's a solution, an easy solution, which everyone seemed to make really difficult. You can be parents. You could still be civil to each other and parent your children so that they are not affected by your agreement to go your separate ways. Accept that the relationship cannot work, but it is your responsibility to make sure that these little ones that entrusted upon you is ready for the world. So you could have a civil relationship. Don't badmouth the other parent, with your child. Don't talk about the financial struggles you're going through as a parent. Don't put that onto the child. Treat the child as a child. If you live, whether you live together or not, try to have dinners together. We've got to move with today's time. Kids don't want to be in the kitchen for a long time cooking with parents. I know I was able to do that with my son for a few years. And after that, he wants his iPad. He wants the electronics. But what we do is we find shows and watch them together. And he remembers that. So you could get involved in electronics with your child. Your child does not have to do things with you so that you could have that togetherness, right? So if they're into video games, get into video games. It's a phase, they'll pass through it. But the aim of it is to do something together. And that allows them to know that you're there. They've got that emotional support from you. It builds their confidence. They know that they could always come to you. But those are like two things that I could think at the top of my head.
Yeah. We'll take a quick break and we'll be right back.
Ina's driving school offers training for CDL licenses, including tractor trailers, trucks, and school buses. Just think, with a CDL license, you can have access to thousands of driving jobs at large companies such as FedEx, UPS, MTA, or New York Sanitation. Ina's driving school also offers defensive driving courses and training classes for cars and motorcycles, all taught by their college trained instructors who can even schedule your road test appointments. Inquire about other driving and training packages as well. You might even be qualified for their free CDL training, as they are a certified institution with the New York State Workforce One program. Call Ina's Driving School today. They've been serving our community for over 10 years.
And we are back. Now, Annalisa, you mentioned right before we went to break that financial difficulties, right, can have a huge impact. It can have an impact on mental health. And I do want to touch on that because people, I think we're in denial. We don't see how it affects us. And as adults, I think it affects us in some way or the other. Can we touch a little bit on that?
Do you want me to do it or Narine?
Yeah, you and you guys, you definitely do.
So, I mean, for sure, I mean, mental health come in different shape and form. So, people are stressed out or fall into some sort of mental health trap because of, relationship issue that we talk about, financial issue, of course. Obviously, for example, if you have, let's say you have had a decent job where you're able to pay your mortgage and take care of all the bills and so on, and if that piece is no longer there, without any question, there's that automatic stress. In fact, study shows that that financial piece is one of the biggest causes of mental health, and also divorce as well too. By the way, here in Canada, the divorce rate is 50%. By the way, so financial piece is something we have to pay a keen attention to. The one thing I want to add along that line is that sometimes we have to pay attention to the things that are not being said. So, for example, we probably might not be hearing from a friend or family member in years, and all of a sudden, this person is reaching out to us, right? They are reaching out to us because maybe they are in that financial need, right? And they have no other option. They are reaching out to us. But we as human being now, yeah, right? This is a natural thing we do. We will have the tendency to say, look, she did not reach out to me, in 2 years, and now she's reaching out to me and so forth. So we have to be mindful of this. And the reason why I'm saying this is because people are constantly reaching out to us in so many different ways, but we have to start to pay attention of their ways of presenting themselves to us. Not everybody will pick up the phone and say, Noreen, look, I'm very depressed right now. I'm in this state, I'm in this situation. This is what I need. We now have to read between the fine lines and start to listen to the things that are not being said. But to come back to the financial piece, absolutely, I work in employment as well too, and I can tell you, though I was not in mental health at those times, when people lost their job, most of the conversation turned out to be mental health related, where I had to do referral and make referral where job seekers are not necessarily looking for a job anymore because they need to clean out the mental health pieces that's happening, right? Because it comes to the point that they are in the dark spot more, right? And so absolutely, mental health It's not just one thing. It's not only divorce, separation. It's not only that loneliness that we feel and sometimes we don't know why, or general anxiety and all of that. Financial peace, if you look at the stats, I believe in the States, it's probably even more higher than us here in Canada.
Thank you. Listen, we can go on and on as to all the things, but again, we need to find solutions. What as leaders in community, right? As influencers, as RTs, we kind of touched on this a little bit. Uh, Religious leaders, what do you guys think? All of these people that plays those roles in society, what can they do to make their voices be heard and to make changes?
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay. So, the artists, the religious leaders, I think making it comfortable for people to approach you, to talk about things. Shameeza, I've had a few females reach out to me. A few females reach out to me to talk about their issues that's causing mental health, because I've been through that, or I share in that same experience. And I don't know these females personally, but they just sent a message and we had conversations about it. And of course, my first instinct is to help, but sometimes just listening, sharing your own experience, sharing my own experience and what I been through and what I did to overcome it or go through it. I'm lucky that I have four sisters, and I do have my anxiety, kick in at times, and I could call any one of them, and we have hours of talking about these issues that I'm going through and just talking it through. And after that, I feel so much better knowing that, talking through it, and then knowing that my sisters are there for me. Some people are not that lucky to have that person just be there for you to listen. And me, being an artist, I am approachable. I have people reaching out to me that I don't know, just to talk about issues, not to talk about music, but to talk about their life as a female. And some are guys as well. So I think as an artist, I could only talk, from an artist point of view. It's just being approachable and being humble enough, and being comfortable talking about these things, and listening is very important as well. And sharing your experience, when people see that, hey, you've been through this, what you're empathizing with me, they feel comfortable, and it's like that stress kind of drop a little bit, because now you're like, okay, well, you've been through it, you've succeeded through it, you're still working through it, and you're doing well. Then I have some hope, I could do this as well. That's the way I see it as an artist point of view.
Agree. Go ahead,
Yeah,
Mr.
I think what
Sookram.
they're doing is, especially like influencers, and your face is there, you have a product and you're selling that product. So you're perceived as a powerhouse. They're seeing the end result, or the making of, the end bit of the journey. You've already made it, sort of, but they don't see the struggles that you've gone through to get to where you are. So I think that's why it's so important when your face is out there and people are looking up to you and turning to you for advice and guidance, and influence, that you let them occasionally know that, look, I've had these struggles, but this is where I'm at. And how did I get to it? I was able to manage my stress. I was able to cope with whatever life was coming my way. How did you do it? I kept learning about myself, finding the tools, helping, just going out, trying to be a better, stronger person, because that's the story that a lot of people are not showing on social media. They're showing the fancy travels, and they're not showing you when they're crying in the bedroom and they're falling apart. And that's real life. That's life for everyone. But how we handle the stresses coming to us, that's what matters. When you have the tools, that's how you get through life. And I love religious leaders. I absolutely do, because growing up, I grew up in a Christian home with, pastors. And they put the fear of God in you, right? You can't do anything, or you hurt yourself, you're ending up in hell, which was great, because you don't want to end up in this place that, is out there. But you learn faith, you stick it through, and you build up, I call it a cookie jar of all the times when you've gone through difficult moments, times you thought you'd never get through, and then something better happens. So I'm now at a point in my life where it's like, I'm actually excited about discomfort because I know there's a lesson in there, and I can't wait to learn what this lesson is, and in absolutely everything. So religious leaders lend that kind of support, that support of the importance of having faith that no matter what, life works itself out for you. It's going to get better. And you need that when you're losing your job, when you're losing your spouse, when you're losing people to death. You need something to keep you going. And I think one of the most important lessons that I've gotten from almost every religious leader that influences my life is the importance of finding a purpose. A purpose. Like, you can have a hobby, you can have likes and dislikes, and those are going to go. But when you have a greater purpose that's attached to serving people, doing something for somebody else, you'd be surprised at how tiny your problems will seem. Let's imagine that we're helping kids with cancer. I mean, really, you're going through a heartbreak, you lost a job. Yes, it's bad. But when you see bigger problems, yours don't seem that difficult to manage or cope with. So having a purpose where you're serving someone who is in more need than you might be at that time is definitely something that gets you out of that mental funk, and it keeps you going. And
Best
that's
thing.
not to negate anything. That's not to say that you're not going to have problems and it's not important.
Best thing I've heard probably all year. Find your purpose and do some. When you find that purpose, do what is required of you as a human being. Help someone else. Find ways to give back, and when you do that, you realize, and when you see actual people who are suffering or have needs, that you have so much to be grateful for. It makes you realize how blessed you are, and you learn to look at life differently. And your little petty problems that you thought was once major issues now becomes nothing. Mr. Sookram, I know you have something that you would like
Yeah,
to
I
say.
just want to add very quickly here to what has already been said. Obviously, I think as as role models in our own way, I think it is important to always make sure, very, very important. If you can walk away with one thing from me here today, do know it is important and crucial for us to meet people where they're at, right? Because if somebody approach us in a desperate need, and we need to pay the attention to them. If we will reverse it and talk about ourselves and and our accomplishment and so on, we're not going to get too far with that person to allow that person to kind of get out in his or her situation. So I just
And
thought of that.
another amazing thing being said there. That is so true. We need to certain times we need to know what our environment or who we're among, and we need to be to that level. There are many times when we are not approachable and we're the issue. We're the person that cannot be, cannot have that conversation with that person. As much as they might want to speak to us, they don't feel they can because we haven't come down to certain levels. And we need, as you guys are all of this, and Annalisa, you brought up a good point where we influencers show the end product and they show all these amazing things, and we don't really show the struggles behind. And one thing that keep flashing in my head is in September when school started, all the parents were posting these amazing photos of their kids, beautiful, they have their beautiful uniforms or, backpacks. And all I'm thinking about was, God, please get me through this school year without having to lose more hair, more sleep, like how am I going to get? And I posted it. I was very real about it that I'm praying to get through the school year. And I think that's the thing that we're missing, is
Mhm.
that we want to see the glitz and the glamour. We want life to be perfect, but we don't want to accept that it's not.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and it's not, it really is not that perfect. There's so many things that we go through behind the scenes, and we need to start talking about those things. This is where the conversations start. This is where real mental health issues start. Now, if we notice one thing, which I have been observing, our young people, there is one thing that they constantly say to us: I have anxiety problems. I've seen people in the teenagers, I have seen many young people say, I have anxiety issues. Is that something when we hear we should step back, or just is that a normalized thing now where everyone says it? Is that normal? Are you guys listening and hearing the same thing as well?
Do you mean like, is it overused, or people are like, is it
I
like
am I'm, I
the
am still
narcissist
trying to
mode?
understand when people say that. Like, is that a thing now? It's like I have anxiety issues. Like, I'm feeling anxious right now, and I'm like, but why? So
Maybe
I
they
don't know
are.
if it's something that's being normalized. Like, hey, or we really, when people say those things, step back and say, so let's talk about it.
Hmm.
And I've noticed many people, parents and other people, just brushing it away and like it's not a big deal. Oh, she'll be fine. So we need to start paying attention. We need to start listening, and we need to find more ways. We need to hold more people accountable. Leaders in our community need to be held. I think we should be having these discussions in our places of worship. There are many people that go out to their religious places every single weekdays. They go out, and that's a place that they go to find comfort and peace. And we should be having these discussions. Or our religious leaders should be having these discussions and focused on it every single Saturday, Sunday, whatever days they're coming out. We should mention it. Say, hey, we're here to help you. I mean, it doesn't have to be a 10-minute conversation. Today, if you're not feeling well, please come back after this sermon and let's talk. I want to hear about it. We're here for you. These are the words that people need to hear.
Shameeza, you talked about the words being used, and I was trying to really understand what you were asking, because what I find is that there are people that use um, mental illnesses, the terms of mental illnesses, quite loosely.
Yes.
Like, oh, this person is so narcissistic. No, they're not. It's a, it's a medical term. This person has to be diagnosed. Or, oh yeah, I'm traumatized by the movie. No, you're not. It affected you, but you're not traumatized.
Right.
So while we should get comfortable talking about mental health illnesses, we should not be just tossing these words around like it's nothing. It's real, or you get into a fight or a disagreement with someone, and it's like, oh, you've got a bipolar, that person has bipolar, or it's like we've got to be careful with the words that we're using, because while it's a conversation we need to start having a lot more, it's not a joke. It's not to be taken lightly. Talking about people being toxic, I always wondered, how did we get to labeling people as toxic? Is it an unhealthy relationship? Of course, probably. But to label a human being, to desensitize a human being as toxic, I think we've got to be really, really careful with the words that we're using, because I don't think we realize when we call a person narcissistic, we're hurting them. We're adding to the mental problems that they might have. It's putting a person down. You might as well just call them a nasty word. It's the same thing, because that's what you're implying. You're implying that something's messed up about you, and I'm going to use that. I'm weaponizing this thing to hurt you. Not saying, hey, honey, you know what? I think we should talk to a professional. That's not how it's used. So we need to be careful with how we're using these words. But yes, if someone says, I feel really depressed, we need to talk about it, or, ask them how we can help.
Perfect. Thank you guys so much. We'll move on now to Natasha. Natasha has a new song out, new music video. Uh, Natasha, tell us about your new song.
Okay, I have to switch minds from mental
Fine.
health
Yes.
seriousness to fun stuff. um, so music video. Okay, so this song was released on Sunday, and the video was done in Spain in June. I went to Spain and I did 3 videos out there and 3 recordings. So it was completed in July, and we decided, to release the song after Diwali. And how we come about the song, I did my producer for the song is Sunny R out in Holland, and we were both listening to music and going through music, and we came across the song, and he liked it, I liked it, and we decided, okay, let's just do this song together, like work on this song. So we did, and that's how the song came about. And now it's out.
It's out and it's doing very well.
It's
Congratulations
due,
on that.
yeah.
It's definitely different from what we were accustomed to.
Yes.
And it definitely has an impact because, again, it's unusual, right? It brings that difference, and people like different sometimes. It gives us something to really, there's nothing else like it in our community. So it's
Right.
definitely unique in its own way. And I'm very happy that you chose something that was so different and yet so had such nice. I'm sure there were things added to make it as good as it was, but it was definitely different and unique for me, and I enjoy that.
Yeah.
Outfits was definitely on point. It was, what the song required, your dance movements, everything was very much on point. So I totally enjoyed that video and the new song. So, you know, you're doing so awesome. I remember you coming on here a few months ago and you were just
Mhm.
starting out. I remember having conversations with you about, this whole journey and what it's like, and you know what to expect when you go out there. And you at that time there was so much happening for you, but here
Yeah.
you are today. You have a few videos out now, a few songs, and
Mhm.
you're living your best life.
Well, I don't know about living my best life,
Oh,
but
you
yeah. Oh, go ahead.
go ahead.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Oh, so yeah, it's been a lot of work, Shameeza. Like, I get real with you. Um, it's not easy. It's a lot of mental, you know, it's mentally draining sometimes to it's a lot to think about, being an artist, working on the music, thinking about, okay, what else are you going to do, doing the videos, getting everything together. It's a lot of work and it's a lot of stress, to be honest. And I'm a single mom, and I work full time as well, and I'm doing music as my side. Oh, sorry, I think I lost you for a second.
We can
I
hear
lost
you.
you, right? Oh, okay. Sorry. Okay. Yeah, so I it's a lot of work, but I'm happy, that I'm doing it and I keep going. And when you're in the public eye, you have negatives and you have positives, and you hear both. And what I try to do is not pay attention too much to the negative. But in my case, they're more positive than negative. So that's good. Um, and with this song, it is different because I wanted something different. I wanted, um, it's just my personality. And I think as we go more into music, and you'll see later on, my personality is going to come out in my music, and videos. And that is what I want to portray myself. It's not a show. It's not, like, it's honest. It's not, it's genuine. It's who I am. And that is what I use music as, to express myself, to be myself. And that's why it's different, because I genuinely enjoy that song, dancing, singing it, and doing something different than what we're used to.
Can I
Perfect.
ask a question?
Annalisa, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I don't know much about your music, but I want to know what got you into it. Like, is this a childhood dream that you always had? If it was, what keeps you going? Because you say sometimes it's really difficult. And
Yeah.
you said that now you're moving into something that feels more like you. So why did it
Mm-hmm.
take you this long to get into something that feels so much more like you?
It's a great
Okay.
question.
Yeah, I love that question. Okay, so I grew up with Sundar Popo, who is the chutney singer in Trinidad. And when you grow up as a child in this house, that it's not a normal, it's not a normal way of being raised. It's not the way I grew up was, you're always in the light, you're always out at shows, you're staying nights at studios, you're sleeping, in studios overnight as a little child, you're around people that are drinking all the time, and there's music everywhere. You get a lot of attention growing up as a child with Sundar Popo. And at school and in Trinidad, if anyone knows you're related to Sundar Popo, you just naturally automatically becomes a spotlight on you. So because of my childhood and being in that light, I wanted to be away from that light as an adult. So I when I was 21 years old, I joined the military, and I removed myself entirely from music, from the culture, from everything, and I went straight into the military and focused on just that. I had nothing to do with music. I didn't want to hear about it. It's not that I hated it. It's just too much attention all the time. You just want to be, yourself. So I did that. I had my own goals of, I wanted to finish school and pay for college and all this other stuff. So I joined the military to do that. And then I did my time in the military, and I decided, okay, it's time to settle down. I had 2 kids, and I wanted them to have a settled life. The military is very hectic, and then you're always moving, you're always, adapting, changing. And I didn't want my kids to go through that. I wanted them to have a home, a family, and to settle down and stay one place. So I decided to get out the military because of that. If I didn't have kids, I probably would have still been in the military, maybe. But so I decided to get out. Then later on, Sundar Popo's name never went away. His music never went away. It just, got bigger, and it never died. It's like timeless. So fortunately, I know I say this is a curse and a blessing at the same time. And I'm being real with you, and I'm being open online here, but he basically left his entire legacy for me. So it's a good and bad thing. Because it's good, you've inherited something. It's bad because now you have all this responsibility to carry on. It's your responsibility to take care of these things. And I joke around and I say, oh, dad died, but he still gives me work to do. So, and that's when I decided, like, okay, I started the Sundar Popo Foundation back 2 years ago during COVID, because I wanted to keep his name alive, carry on his legacy. So I went through the process of establishing a Sundar Popo Foundation, which would help with dialysis in the Caribbean, Suriname, Ghana, and Trinidad. Those are the focus countries, and basically like offsetting the cost of dialysis in those countries. So I'm still working on the foundation. While working on the foundation and going out to events and talking about the foundation, everywhere I go, someone would ask me to sing. And I'm like, I don't sing. I mean, I could sing, but I don't. They always ask, sing a song, sing a song. So then I'm like, you know what? If I'm going to sing every time I go out in public to do something or to a family event, I might as well take this seriously and actually do it. So for a while, I've been thinking about it. I talked to a couple people, but I never actually took the steps. Then one day I went to Firefest to one of their shows there, and Brian Mohan performed, and he called me up on stage to sing. And I sang there. After that, Mr. Alan Gopi called me a couple days and said, "Hey, do you want to do music?" I saw it as an opportunity, and they took lead with the video and the production of the song, and helped me through that. And I did my first video and song. After doing that and having that experience, I felt differently. I felt like I found my purpose. I felt like that, I don't know, I can't express like how happy music makes me, especially being on stage. I think that moment you're on stage, it, like I told Shameeza, when I was going on and off, going on stage, you have like the most, your heart is going so fast, you have all this anxiety, maybe not for the other artists, but for me. And then when you get on stage, all of that goes away, and you're just yourself, and you are just having fun, and you just, doing what you want to do. So that feeling, I think, is addictive to me, and I'm like, I want to do this some more, and I want to sing, and I want to make people happy, and I want to do, like, influence people if I can, influence them in the foundation to support that, help, assist Shameeza with her mental health awareness programs, and if we could do that, but using music, using Sundar Prabhu's name to do that. I always say I don't like selfish people, and I'm not selfish. So as an artist, I don't want to just sing and perform and look pretty on stage. What am I contributing, and how am I helping being here? And that is where the foundation comes in. And then Shameeza, being able to, sorry, I'm getting a phone call and it keeps interfering with my laptop. And then helping, people like Shameeza in her programs, and wherever I could help, give back. And that's my way of giving back. Eventually, my goal is to do more. But so this is how I started singing. And when I did those performances and the videos, the feeling that I got, the happiness of expressing myself, I realized then, this is me. I've never been this before. I've never done this before. And I want to do it. And I want to let other females know it's okay to be yourself. It's okay to express yourself and be strong. Do what you want to do and find your purpose doing it. So that's, I know that's a long haul there. Sorry about that, Annalisa, but that's my journey.
It's really funny. I'm someone who believes in all the woo-woo universe things.
Oh, I can't hear you. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm saying, can you hear?
Can you hear me?
Why can't I hear anybody? Sorry. Maybe it's my earpiece.
Can you hear us now?
Hold on. Sorry. I don't know. I lost my...
Can you hear us?
Your mic is on mute, so I can't hear you.
You're muted. But while we get her back, and I do want to shout out Ranji from then and Natasha. They're both veterans, and so with us recently having Veterans Day, I want to say thank you for your service. And they are. We have our brother here, Rosh, watching and being here. He's been with us since the beginning of the program. Susan, Chandra, Sundar, good evening to everyone that's with us right now. And thank you for your comments. Go ahead, Natasha.
Shameeza, did you hear me? How long was I on mute for?
Oh, we heard everything that you said. We could hear you. I think you weren't hearing us.
Oh,
okay. When you were muted, there wasn't really much that I was just congratulating and saying thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Mr. Sookram, any questions for Natasha?
Well, I have to say that I've always been a big fan Sundar Popo, I have to say that. And I'm very happy to hear that you are somehow continuing along that journey, because it is a beautiful thing. I like the fact that you added that giving back, paying it forward piece, where you are not just doing it for the sake of looking, beautiful on stage and all of those types of piece. I think that you've gone really, really deep. And I think that's a perfect example of what finding your purpose is. It is a beautiful thing, and I have to say that's the piece that sets you apart. And if there's anything I can do to help you and your foundation grow, reach out to me separately.
Okay.
Wow. Thank you very much. We need to come together, and we need to find ways to help each other, and just, be there for each other, and I think that's powerful. Thank you, Mr. Sookram. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight was definitely one to remember. I truly enjoyed tonight's discussion, and I wish we had more time, but we are running out of time. Your final thoughts before we leave tonight,
Natasha.
Natasha?
Shameeza, thank you always for having me on your show. I look forward to this. I love our discussions. I am looking forward to accountability as well. And I love being here and supporting you always. You do a great job, so thank you for having me on Get Real with Shamiza. And it's nice meeting you all also, and I learned a little bit also myself tonight. So I love these discussions, and there's so much to learn. So thank you.
Okay, I'm going to echo what Natasha just said. Thanks for having me again on the show, Shamiza. And yeah, it's always so good to have these discussions and have your viewers be a part of it. It's like Natasha says, you give back and you do as much as you can to clean up whatever emotional messes we might be going through. Natasha, thank you again for serving. I know I've said this in the past. Thank you. And for sharing your little story, answering my questions. I've got a fun story to talk to you about over, like the camera thing. But yeah, I think there was a reason we met twice. It's like your father knew my family and I didn't realize you were his
Oh,
daughter. And when you're talking, I'm like, oh, that's the story. Okay. So yeah, thank you. It was really great being a part of this. Thanks.
Mr. Sookram?
So the one thing I would like to say here, obviously, apart from I'm glad that I was included in this as well too. I feel as if I'm the luckiest one here to be among three beautiful, powerful women. So I think that's my gain here. But the one thing I would like to say here, I think it is important for us as professionals and so forth to make sure that we are not forgetting that we have to take care of ourselves, because at the end of the day, we wouldn't be able to feed off an empty bucket, right? So if we want to help and give back and all of these types of things, we have to make sure that we're also taking good care of ourselves. That self-care, that is. So thank you.
Oh, and Shamiza, if I may remind your viewers that if they come through you, the consultation is still free. So if they need any, emotional support, they can always come through you.
Definitely. And what I do want to remind them as well, if you're currently not following my guests for tonight, please do. Please follow them on their social media platforms. And if there's any way that you feel more comfortable reaching out to them to have discussions, please message them, let them know that you would like to set up a time that you can have a discussion, tell them how you're feeling, and I'm sure they will be happy to have that discussion with you. All right. Thank you guys so much. On closing tonight, I do want to say that mental health determines how you think, feel, and act. Good mental health is when you feel positive about yourself and cope well with everyday pressures. If you experience issues dealing with everyday problems, it could be a sign of mental health problem and should be addressed immediately. There are different ways to seek help. Find a way that works best for you, or speak to someone you can trust. Like I just said, you are not alone. Until next time, protect your mental health, seek positivity and kindness. This is Get Real with Shameeza. Good evening, everyone.